comedian philanthropist.
wouldn't say
Your brain must just constantly be going.
Let's go back. Philanthropist? I don't know about that. My wife's a teacher and I run a nonprofit, so there's no money there. I mean, that's one of my jokes actually. So,
Welcome to Under the Knife, the podcast where we cut into topics such as politics, life advice, and medicine, and we do this with the precision of a licensed orthopedic surgeon. I'm your host, Dr. Craig Green, an orthopedic surgeon and elected public official. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for being here.
good morning. Thank you for having me.
Hey, tell us a little bit about Angel's Place.
Angel's Place is a nonprofit based in Metairie, New Orleans, and what we do is we provide ongoing support services to a child that's been, and their family, but the child's been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, cancer, brain tumor, heart defect, anything, but it's got to be considered life-threatening. So we do a lot of respite care in the hospital, in Children's and Ochsner Hospital. And we do gift cards, we do family events, anything to help them not worry about certain things so they can focus on the care of the child.
Now, is it hospice type related? It's got to be end of life type thing?
The first director of it, I took over from Anita Guilford. She was hoping to take it to hospice, but now there's so many companies that can just swoop in if it does reach that point. So we kind of took that off the table. So we kind of do just mainly respite. And so when it's time for hospice, and some families want to take the child home,
right?
And it may not be around around us nearby, so we can do that. So we don't really offer that anymore.
So is it Make-A-Wish kind of like Make-A-Wish, or how's it different than Make-A-Wish?
It's kind of different. If there is something the child desires or wants, if I can do it within my powers, I will try. We had a child that was diagnosed with some syndrome that brain tumors just grew in his head, and he had seizures, and he's in Garyville. And he wanted to meet some DJs from B97. He listened to the radio endlessly. And so I just thought, let's get him to go meet him. And that's what I did. And got a limo and everything. And it was so, if I can do something, Make-A-Wish, it's one time. Right. One time. We are ongoing. Yes.
Let me ask you this. So, I'm on my kids a lot about, hey, life's about experiences and doing those to enhance relationships with people that you love.
Right.
And it's interesting to me, I would like your input on these people that are in these dire situations. Do they often seek experiences or material things like, I want a boat?
I'd say almost both. Because we do Christmas for all these families too. We give them Christmas morning. If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't have anything. So some of them ask for experiences. We had a girl that we gave them a shopping spree to the Mall of Louisiana. They came in and did all kind of wonderful stuff for us. But then, I guess that's getting stuff too. But they wanted experiences. It was an experience, a shopping spree or something like that. And then sometimes they will ask for things. I wish I could get them a boat. I wish we were that, to do that. But I think we try to do what we can. It doesn't happen too often, but we can refer to Make-A-Wish. We can, and the social workers in the hospital will do that also. So most of our kids do get a Make-A-Wish.
Now, tell us about the mark that led to Angel's Place.
Well, I was a teacher at Archbishop Rummel High School for 22 years. And then...
What subject?
Math.
Okay.
All from up to calculus and AP classes and stuff like that. So I taught there, and then when my first year, one day they were doing a fundraising car wash for one of the students that had leukemia, and he was getting ready for a bone marrow transplant, and it was to help pay for that. So it was nearby where I grew up and was living. It was in Metairie, and I went to it, and I was just like, this is just really fun. And I had never really been involved in service work. And so I was like, okay, so that kind of lit the fire in me. And then when I teach college classes too. I was teaching at the University of New Orleans, and I teach right now at Loyola University. I teach one math class. And at UNO, I gave the students a project. Just find something you love and find the math involved in it. And a teacher from a Head Start school was in my class, and she showed me all these wonderful things they did with Head Start kids. And I was like, oh, so, and I students I taught at Rummel my first year, I could see some of them could use some positive reinforcement for self-esteem and things like that. I said, could we come volunteer? And it started this thing, and I didn't realize. I just did one field trip. And then it started getting word started getting out that I was doing this, and kids were coming and asking me, can I go? Can I go volunteer? Can I do this? And next thing I know, we're doing multiple trips. They have created a club we called it Operation Head Start. And I did it my 22 years while I was there. And I also created a service program there, because then they required the students to do service. So I was involved in all kind of things in New Orleans, working with all different groups. And so I guess and then when Angel's Place came up, I was on the board, and we used to do their Christmas parties on the campus of Rummel. And I was kind of desiring to do some administration, but I don't know if it was happening at that school. So they came to me, and Anita Guilford wanted to retire, and they came to me and said, would you be interested in this? And I was like, yeah, I can do this. And
how long ago was that?
That was 8 years.
Wow.
8 years. So I just finished my 8th year, August 6th.
I also want to hear about the comedian aspect, and then I want to tie those together with a specific question. But tell us about how the comedian aspect came about.
I had a good friend that helped me with the club at Rummel, Operation Head Start, and he was involved in a band. And my wife is a theater teacher in New Orleans.
So you have a math mind and a theater mind in the same house?
Yes. We balance each other. She hates math, and I'm not too crazy about some musicals. I hope she didn't hear this, but and then there was a comedian, Jody Borello, was offering a class in Kenner Rivertown, and so I decided, maybe I'll take this. Let me try something. And I'm very sarcastic. I say sarcasm is the way I hug, and I have a T-shirt that says that, and I just kind of thought, well, let me come take this class. So I took it, and then we it was about month or 2 months, and then I did a show there, and we created a crew called the Comic Recess Crew. We're not really active now. I just do anything on my own, but that's how it started.
Are you still doing it?
Not right. Unless the last time I did something was about a year ago. I had a student that was in a Cajun band that was recently nominated for a Grammy, and I invited him to come out and do a show, and I said, look, I'll open for you. And I did something there, and it was a fundraiser for Angel's Place. So I'll use it for that. But I've kind of stopped writing and all that kind of stuff right now. So,
well, here's what I want to ask you about that, because I really believe, and I love comics. I wish I could be one, but that's just not my skill set. But Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle, those guys, I think they're philosophers that touch something inside of people. And the expression of that is laughter. Mm-hmm. And because, it was Joe Rogan that, and not personally taught me, but on his show it's come out that, like, the ones that are good, they put a lot of work into it. Mm-hmm. And they write it and they rewrite it, and it's not just like, I'm going to go tell some jokes. I mean, it's coming from deep experiences that other people have, and there's usually a moral or something there to be expounded upon, right?
I think for me is, I think laughter, like between me and my wife, we make each other laugh all the time. And I think that's a key. I think laughter is so needed in your life. I just talk about my life and the funny, or I'll make it funny or do a little elaboration or something like that and make it funny. And I realize, well, since I like laughing, maybe getting other people to laugh. And I'm one of you talk about Robin Williams or something like that. I mean, Robin Williams was so talented, but then there was so much happening inside that caused him to, break down and commit suicide. And I think there were other things happening too there, but I think he masks a lot with the laughter and the comedy. I don't know if I would say I'd do that, but it just came nice. It was, when I was doing it on a regular basis, it was.
Did it feel like an expression?
Yes, it was my way of expressing and my way of performing, I guess, in a way. And I kept saying, they're inviting me back, so I must be doing something, and we were doing pretty good there for a few years. And, I think it just enhances your life. You need to laugh at something.
I'm sort of awestruck. I don't know if I've ever been in the presence of a mathematician, comedian, philanthropist. Your brain must just constantly be going.
Let's go back. Philanthropist? I don't know about that. My wife's a teacher, and I run a nonprofit, so there's no money there. I mean, that's one of my jokes, actually. So,
so talk us through that though. Like these is for children, right?
Right.
And they're in a situation most of us never have to face, and it's got to be something that they didn't plan, the parents didn't plan. It's just enthralled with sadness,
right? And
how does your comedic efforts incorporate into that?
Well, what I try to tell, because we get volunteers that come to us. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. I know it's going to happen. It's so sad. I just want to break down. And I tell them, I said, look, when you walk into that hospital room or one of our events or anything like that, think about what you're doing in the moment. It's so important to stay in that moment and realize you're bringing some joy to that child.
Be present.
Be present, yes. And I just say, realize you bring in some joy to them. So stay in that moment, keep it together, because you don't want to break down in front of the child, but stay in that moment. If you're reading a book, if you're playing a game, if you're just giving them a toy to help pass the time while they try to find a cure to their disease or diagnosis, you gotta remember that. Because when we throw the parties, we're getting ready to do a Halloween party in a few weeks. It's just, what can we do to give these children a couple of hours of time to just be a kid?
Right. Not focus on the disease.
Exactly. And not have the parents a little bit of worry-free time so that they don't have to worry about it either.
Well, I know in doctoring and more so in pediatrics, you're oftentimes treating the parents more than...
Exactly.
And so, that's got to be a part of it too, right?
Yes. In fact, I have a staff of 3. It's me, my director of operations, and my program director. And she often she'll work with the child, but she kind of checks in on the parents because she feels if I can help them, then they'll be strong enough to help the child and take care of the child. And that's a good way of thinking about it. Because
kids are resilient.
Yes.
So tell us where, because, a big theme that Armando and I talk about, a big theme in my life is giving, right? And some of the most insufferable people to be around are the most selfish, right? And your life is about giving. And I come from a faith background, and one of the things that we were always taught is that ministry is an overflow, not an overwork. It's got to come from inside of you before you can help other people in a genuine and authentic way.
Right.
And whether it's teaching calculus or making sick children laugh or have a positive experience, where's that coming from in Mark?
I think just to help somebody. And I found out I enjoyed it. When I first started teaching and I saw the difference I made, I was kind of like, this isn't bad. And I enjoyed it. My mom always tells me stories about how I would they gave me a chalkboard one year for Christmas. And I was in the neighborhood teaching the kids. So I knew that was in my blood.
How old were you in?
I just the neighbors would come and we'd play school, and I always had to be the teacher, but maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. But, I just kind of thought it was in me. And then when I realized I could, and then I was teaching college first. I was a teaching assistant. I had a math degree. I thought I was going to just go, into computer science or engineering or something like that. And I interviewed for some of these jobs, and sitting behind a desk just didn't. So, and teaching's like performing. So you're in front of a class, several times a day and stuff like that. So, and you walk out in front of that class, you're on stage. So I kind of saw that, and just making the difference, like the service, and it feels good. It makes you feel good.
Giving to others. And, I'm one of those people that I'd much rather give than receive. Although it depends, but I'm not going to make that light, but, Well, it's a real deal.
Well, and I think, people give them support. people giving, like, like the first child's funeral I had to go to. It was just awful. Awful. It was in Ponchatoula. I had to drive. It was a Friday night. I had to drive out there myself. Just coming back, people were calling me saying, "How you doing? We know this was rough." I mean, that meant the world. And so the support that I've gotten from, I will say, former students. When I left Rummel to go to Angel's Place, some of the alumni and all were coming at me going, "Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving?" And I said, "Well, look at what I'm doing." And like, it went from "Why are you leaving" to "How can we help?"
Mm-hmm.
And
next chapter of your life.
Right. And that made it easy to go over and to do that. So I think it's just, this was a wider platform to really help people in a very distinct way, in a very distinct situation. So I think that, and I've been working with Angel's Place while I was a teacher for quite a few years, so I knew a lot about it. It was just natural to kind of go in that direction. And I was part of a Christian Brothers school, and it's one of their big aspects is service to others. So,
I think about that the biblical narrative of, the Dead Sea is dead because it doesn't drain from anything. It only receives.
Right.
And if you think about people that only receive, they're kind of miserable to be around.
Yep.
It's the people that are generous with,
yes.
Not just money, but one of my close friends, he's a high-powered athletic director, and it's interesting when we start talking, no matter who he's talking to, within 2 minutes, he's turned the conversation back to the other person. Mm. And it reminds me of what my mom always said is, if you want somebody to like you, just get them talking about themselves, and so again, it's the giving and making people know that you care.
Right.
I mean, there's some medical parallels here too. When a patient comes to my office, they want to trust me. Do they trust that I know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And
do they know that I care? Not
right.
Do they think that I care? Do they know that I care? Which has to start with that I care.
Right.
And so it seems like it is an overflow for you, but it seems like this virtuous cycle of care, give, there's love, and then that keeps your tank full and going.
It does. Sometimes it's a challenge because I've often felt like in fact, I'm reading a book called Running on Empty. And it's hard to recharge sometimes, but I have to make myself, you also got to take care of yourself too. And, I think it's things like, coming and doing this. This is just nice I feel it's supportive, and it's getting word out, and it's meeting you and working with, LeDuc Entertainment and stuff like that. I just think that's all really, to me, it's not only good, but it's fun. And that's
well, we hear so many negatives in the world. Mm-hmm. If you watch the news is never about. I mean, I do like David Muir because the last 45 seconds is some positive story.
Right.
The others is like some sensational negativity. And clickbait. I still watch it, but it's not positive.
Right.
And I think what's not exposed enough is how much good there is in the world.
Right.
For instance, I tell my patients this all the time. I read an article in the New York Times not long ago that in the last 100 years, life expectancy on planet Earth has doubled. So 100 years ago, there was no vaccines, no antibiotics. There was a Spanish flu, World War I. I mean, 100 million people, 5% of the Earth's population, gone in 8 weeks. And we used to die of a tooth abscess at 25. And now, things wear out. Your brain, your heart, your knees, your hips, etc. But that's just in the last 100 years of humanity.
Yep.
And our biggest problem now is when our iPhone doesn't reboot like we like it. We've got some pretty good problems to have in life these days.
Right. Or you don't get enough likes. You don't get all those things. Oh yeah, that's running people's lives right now, and it's really kind of sad. So
well, and I don't know about you. I had a little sister that passed away, and I agree with you. I mean, when we buried her, I forget who we were talking, and it's just hard to believe that a 3-foot casket exists. And I remember telling my dad, he's not doing so well right now. I remember telling him at the time, Dad, I hope I never have to bury you. And he said, no, you should bury me. I shouldn't have to bury you.
Right.
And that's true. It's just sort of the cycle of life.
Yes.
But in a world where the negatives are so obvious, it's encouraging to be around people that are optimistic, can laugh at themselves and other people, can figure out, math is problem solving, right? So problem solving can be this, and that's what politics is as well. And there's no like easy answers, right?
Not at all.
Sometimes it's a complex equation,
Right.
With variables that change over time.
Right.
And so if you can have some laughter, some perspective, some philosophy in that, and really the ultimate goal is just to get to the next step, right? We don't know what the next set of variables may be.
And if it brings something unfortunate, well, not unfortunate, but if there's some bumps in the road for that, laugh at it. Laugh at it and shake it off. I'm doing tonight. I belong to a Kiwanis Club, the Kiwanis Club of New Orleans. That's actually part of my job. I'm president next year of it, because nobody else wanted it. But we're doing a bingo for a bunch of special needs adults at Magnolia Community Services. And the reason we do it, or I do it, the reason why I say we got to do this project is it's so much fun. You don't even realize. And again, you're staying in the moment. You're giving them a little bit of tension. You're playing bingo with them. And when they tell you thank you, it's so genuine and pure. And it's wonderful. And I think maybe that's how I recharge. Right. Just doing stuff like that. And it just makes you feel so good that you're helping these people, at least for just a few moments. You know what it reminds me of is my wife and I adopted a child from China 5 years ago. And he's got Down syndrome and autism. Yeah. And he's nonverbal right now. But what's interesting, as we were going through that process, I had a friend of mine tell me his sibling had Downs and autism, and said, look, we need more people in the world. This is going to be such a positive thing for you. It's going to be a lot of work, but children with Down syndrome, they know nothing of judgment or discrimination. All they know is love and laughter. And I can tell you that's true with my son Boomer. I mean, he's all into dad. This means dad, and everything's dad. Sometimes I think it's orchestrated because it's bath time, dad. Gotta go to the bathroom, dad. No, but he's my little buddy, but he doesn't talk, but we communicate. Sure. And it's if I think about the problems I have that day and then compare, he doesn't look at his problems. He looks at the positivity of his circumstances, and that gets him through it. Right. And there's a lot I could learn from that. Right. Oh, he's going to help you more than you help him, probably. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why he's in your life. So yes. Oh, yes. I strongly believe that. So what does the next 10 years look like for Mark and for Angel's Place? Ooh, that's a good question. I'll get 5 years or 10 years. I mean, we'd like to grow. We'd like to work our way up to Baton Rouge and work with Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. At least bring our services up there. We're kind of limited right now because we don't have any volunteers up here. We don't have anything. Anybody. We have a few. We have a few families that are in. We all over the state as high as Shreveport, and the Gulf Coast, in Mississippi, because they go to children's. They don't have a trauma center for kids in the Biloxi or Gulfport, so they send them to children's. But I'd like to grow that way. I'd like to sustain. I think that's big. I mean, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, so I think that's a big milestone for us. I'd like to celebrate a 35th anniversary, hopefully somewhere in there. And I guess, it's such a challenge running a nonprofit because you're worried about that funding. You're worried about salaries. You're worried about taking care of these kids, having the resources for them. I would like not to have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. I think, if anything, I would like to come to work because I want to, not because I have to. At least for me, with Angel's Place, I think maybe have a place of our own, not just renting an office, not just have our own building, have our own facility to have families come in and get resources and maybe have a bigger staff, things like that, so we can really reach out even more. Because I believe we're the only organization that does this. There's a few. I think there's something in Baton Rouge. I think there's a few other organizations that do some of the work we do, but we're very unique, and I'd like to spread that uniqueness. So if someone has a child or knows someone that may need something that y'all have, how do they get in touch with you? They usually, when a child's admitted into the hospital, they'll get a social worker. And the hospitals we work with right now, they know what we do, so they can refer to us. Sometimes we get home referrals, like somebody may have a child that has a life threat and they know about it. So like you may know and you want to refer us. We have our website, angelsplacenola.org, and they can go there and there's a form to fill out. and they can, and we get it, and we just assess it and see if we can take them on, and then we'll put them in our program, and they're eligible to come to all of our services, all of our events, get Christmas presents. We do school supplies. We do, if they need a gift card for something, we can do that. They would be part of our program.
All right, I want to put you on the spot. You ever are the stand-up comedy clubs? Are those the ones that are like audience related or interactive audience?
I think improv is maybe more. You interact with the audience some. If you get anybody who's doing stand-up comedy, then it's usually a heckler.
One of the guys I like a lot is Matt Rife, and he plays off of the audience.
Yes,
which I think is because otherwise you have your complete deal memorized, and that's got to be a little more fluid.
I know him. I remember seeing him on it was a comedy competition on NBC, and he was one of the contestants, and he was really good. And I guess because you have to prepare so much, I do like to be prepared. I haven't had too many hecklers, and usually when like the first show we ever did, our coach came out and said, "Look, don't give them a hard time. This is their first time. Do it. Be understanding, all that kind of stuff." And so I don't know if I've ever had any hecklers like that. I may say like I just talk about my family. And I'll be like, look, let's talk about my mom. Is she here? She might be sitting next to you. You don't even know it. And, things like that. But I don't think I've ever had too much of an interactive audience. But improv, I would love. One day I'm going to learn that.
Well, because I want to put you on the spot, and I want to say, hey, I want you to do a three-minute monologue or however long right now on politicians.
Well, okay, I'm from New Orleans. Let's just start there.
It makes laugh.
I will say in New Orleans and Louisiana, we are very forgiving when it comes to our politicians, because, we can let the mayor of New Orleans use that credit card to buy those groceries. Sure, that's fine. Yeah. Our new outfit, whatever. It's okay. It's okay. It's New Orleans. Governor Edward Edwards he was what, I don't know, 10 million years old, and he almost ran again, and he could win from the grave. We have a parish president that, he made a mistake with, meeting a kid somewhere. Oh, but let's let him finish his term and let him, and we are very forgiving in New Orleans and Louisiana. So, anybody will run. I just feel that, and I have more to this and I can't remember it because I guess you did put me on the spot, but I did a whole spiel about, we are very forgiving to all the politicians, let's ban Mardi Gras, it's okay. We'll get over it. I think in New Orleans, we're that way. And it's just funny to watch Louisiana politics, no offense, but
I asked for it.
I think it's just such an interesting thing. So I watch the news to just watch about the politics, because that's just comedy gold for me.
It is every day.
Every day, just watching to see what happens. I'm trying to think of some of the recent things. Trump. Just seeing everything that
That's
happens.
That's a gold mine, right?
Really. It's just so much to take in, and you can be so I'm trying to figure out how to say this. You can be like, you can be so for Trump and be so, despite anything he does, and just let that ride. But you got to learn to just take that and take it with a grain of salt, and not burden yourself with it. And I don't do that. I take everything. Now, I will watch it just for sheer entertainment value. Right. But all the stuff with Biden right now, all with his son and everything, I just sit there and I'm like, now they want to try to impeach him. Really, and I don't talk politics much, but it's just so funny how we're so divided right now. Yet we come together to find the color of a dress on social media, or I'm trying to think of some of the other things that has made the internet go crazy. I can't think of anything right now, but marking yourself safe from the Taylor Swift concert, or not getting your code to get your Taylor Swift tickets or anything like that. It's just interesting how the people are right now, And I just try to sit back and watch that. And if I can write something on it, I will.
You know what's been healthy for me lately is to unplug regularly.
Yeah.
And I try to teach my kids this, is that, and I do think there'll be a reset one day. I don't know if it'll be economic, an EMP in the stratosphere, but there will be a reset of some sort. And it's important, I think, to occasionally remind ourselves that this social media world that exists is not entirely real.
Right.
And like one of the things I do, and when I ran for office, you always get haters, right? If you're a successful politician, that means 49.9% of the population hates you. So it's not to win friends or anything. I know who my friends are. And at some point there'll be somebody else who's more capable. But now's my turn, and I want to try to give. But my wife, she had to get off of social media because the negative comments about me. And Joe Rogan taught me this too. Is like, I don't read the comments. If you're gonna live your life for likes or for comments, that's gonna be a short-lived and rocky road.
Right.
And so to unplug from that, and so you might see in the news about racial discord or how the plight of the economy. People I interact with in real life, we have great relationships.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on that.
Yes.
And that is what I'm going to try to make the world a better place. Right. Like one person at a time, one engagement at a time, one decision at a time.
Right.
And if one thing I think is big, I try to live, you probably do too. If I disagree with you, we don't have to hate each other.
Right.
We can do it respectfully.
Right.
That's the way it should be.
Right.
And, the beauty of America is you can change power without blood.
Right.
And so let's keep it that way.
Exactly. I mean, you got your critics out there. I got people on my board of directors at Angel's Place, or people when I first started would love to come tell me everything wrong with it. I said, I would just turn it on and say, so what are you going to do about it? I can't do all that. I'm sorry. But are you going to help me change that? And try to turn it on them. And then either they run the other way, or they'll try to help you change it. And so I've learned with your critics and stuff like that to just, you gotta, again, take it with a grain of salt, laugh at it, whatever. And I guess that's what I do in my life, because it helps me deal with it.
One last question. Give us some books you're reading.
I am reading, I'm not as big as a reader as I wanted to be. But I can't even think of the author. It's something, Running on Empty. It's a way about how your parents have treated you, that maybe they didn't hear you out. And I think that's and I've also read How to Be a Badass. Or I forget the name of it. I didn't think about it. I would have looked at all. And I'm also reading Sebastian Maniscalco. He came out with his biography. It's just hilarious.
Is he the comedian?
He's the comedian.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
He is hilarious. I've seen him several times. Things like that. I'm more of a, read the newspaper or read a magazine. I guess that's short-term memory or short-term attention span or something like that. So I'll get on the internet and scroll, but I don't scroll as much. I try to unplug sometimes.
Well, I got to give a plug. My favorite author is Walter Isaacson. He's from New Orleans.
Okay.
And he's written biographies like Steve Jobs, Einstein, Da Vinci, The Innovators. It's just so good. I don't know how he does biographies so well. But just this week, and I'm almost done with it, is Elon Musk.
Wow.
By Walter Isaacson. And
Okay.
it is just, wow. There's people out there like that,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll put a plug in for that. Matt, thanks for coming by.
No problem.
And
I enjoyed
I love
it.
what you do.
Thank you.
But I think that comes from who you are. So press on, and hopefully our paths will cross or weave here more in the future
Sure.
as well. Thank you for joining us today, and a big thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to this surgical exploration of politics, healthcare, and life. I've been your host, Dr. Craig Green. Remember to stay informed, stay sharp, and join us next time to see which of life's topics we'll dissect under the knife.